What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of The Pad Player. In the previous video, I played the song Fierce by Jesus Culture. And anyways, I played the song as I would play it at my church. And if you want to actually see that video, I'm going to put a link in the description down below so you guys can take a look at it. And I do recommend watching that before you go on with this video. So what can we learn from my version of the song? Well, the first thing you really want to know, if you're going into pad playing 101, when it comes to being on a worship team, is that you have to know A, what to play, and B, when to play. It's actually really important to combine those two things. You're gonna notice when I played the song, I went from the high part of the piano to the low part of the piano to the mid part of the piano, and there's a specific reason for that. There's gonna be some key aspects that might be missing or might need more of it in order to be more dynamic, and you really need to find out what that is. Now, I say it. What I'm talking about is a rich and dynamic impact to the song that you're playing. So how can you make a song more rich? How can you make it have more dynamic or more impact? Well, you can just listen to what everybody else is doing. For example, a female singer typically sings in octaves that are on the high part of the piano, right? And the bass typically plays notes that are on the low part of the piano. The rhythm guitar typically plays notes that's in the mid part of the piano, and the lead kind of goes back and forth between the mid and the high. Say you also have one male vocalist who's doing harmony with the female vocalist, and so he might also go from mid to high. So at any given point in the song, you will have one low, two mid, okay, or two high. That's what you'll have throughout the song. Where can you fill in to make the song more dynamic? The last thing you have to take into consideration is whether or not your worship team uses tracks. Tracks are incredibly important to understand as they are also there to give more dynamic to the song. But it's like comparing a computer to a person. You can have the recorded tracks there inside the song, but they're really not going to be able to have the decision making that a person will have in order to make the song sound more rich or more dynamic. The tracks are really supposed to be there to help substitute for some parts that you just don't have. But if you have a pad player or you have an experienced pad player, worship leaders, if you're listening to me on this, my suggestion is to actually pull out the tracks that the pad player or the keyboardist can play so that they can actually have the dynamic to the song that they need to have. But there are actually some songs that can have both the tracks and the pad player at the same time. My thought goes to Hillsong United songs. I can recall a couple of songs where they had multiple keyboardists on stage, and there's a lot of churches that are not going to have that many keyboardists. So tracks are very beneficial into giving a more rich sound without having to add more keyboardists. But that doesn't mean that the keyboardist isn't important. The keyboardist is there to find out what's missing. So going back to my original example, right? One low, two mid, two high. You would think you should play low. But if the track is giving something that also goes low, my suggestion is to play something that's either low or mid. But you want to avoid the other instruments. What do I mean by avoid? You want to avoid clashing with them. I've talked about this before in one of my videos, that clashing means that you are actually playing in the same octave with another instrument, and the frequencies that you're developing within that instrument are clashing with each other. And so if you have a good sound guy, if you have a guy in the back that's listening to that, they're gonna turn one of them down. And if it's the vocalist and the pads clashing, the pads are gonna be the one that's turned down, because the vocalists are a little bit more important in a worship setting. So that's really the first thing to note. Whenever I am actually putting something together for you to listen to, is that you want to listen for, okay, when is he going low, mid, or high, and why is he doing that? Why is he changing octaves in this setting? You don't necessarily want to play low in some cases, just because of the dynamic that the song will bring. And it's the same thing with playing high. If you're in a verse, you might want to stay low, because you actually want the song to sound a little softer. You want it to sound a little quieter, so that when you actually get to the chorus, you can make it a lot louder. You can give more dynamic to the song, which will in turn give a better worship experience for the audience and for yourself. So the second thing that you probably noticed me doing when I was playing that song was that I wasn't really giving a lot of crazy accents to the song. I mean, I had 2 keyboards and I was using both of them inside the song, but I wasn't giving a lot of crazy dynamic or crazy impact, and there's really good reason for that. When you have a lot of stuff happening in a song, there's a very important aspect to keep in mind when you are a keyboardist, and that is less is more. I can imagine that a lot of worship leaders who watch this video are gonna go, oh, thank you. I need people to understand that rhythm guitarists, lead guitarists, keyboardists, less is more. And it's not because they want you to play less so that they can be heard more. It's not just that. It's so that the sound guy can actually utilize you whenever you are going into a dynamic, bringing accent to the song that makes it sound more rich. For example, if I play nothing but block chords, which means I essentially hold that chord until I need to go into another chord. Whenever I'm going through the verse or whenever I'm going through the chorus, the sound guy can actually turn me up. And the reason why he can turn me up is because I'm not playing a bunch of crazy stuff. When I have the opportunity to actually play something that has an accent or has a change, it'll actually sound more dynamic because the sound guy's already turned me up. But if I'm playing a bunch of crazy stuff all the time, the sound guy's gonna turn me down. So when that accent is needed, and the sound guy doesn't remember that that accent is needed in the song, it's not gonna be heard, and therefore the song's not gonna sound more dynamic. So keep in mind that less is more. Play your accents and play the fancy stuff in the appropriate parts of the song, not all the time. Which then leads us to our third topic, and that's accents. Accents are incredibly important because it's your time to shine. You might have noticed that in the bridge, I played something that was very different from the original track, and that's okay, provided that your worship leader says it's okay, or your team leader says it's okay, and the sound guy doesn't have any problems with it, which, by the way, it's very important to consult the sound guy when you're adding something new. I added something incredibly simple, but it gave a dynamic richness to that part of the song when nobody was singing and nobody was actually playing any kind of solo. It was just held down chords. It was a suspenseful moment that was leading into the bridge. And I added a little something there. And the only reason why I added something there was so that the song can actually give a smoother transition, or in my opinion, a smoother transition from the chorus to the bridge. Because in that song, the chorus is very loud and very upbeat, and all of a sudden it just drops down into the bridge. And if you want to give a smooth transition to that, give kind of like an accent, give something, some simple tune that you play that allows the song to change from that fast upbeat moment into this quiet moment that you want to have with your audience. And that's what accents are for. They're for transitions. They're for getting the audience ready to go into the next stage. Like, for example, in between verses is a great time to actually give dynamic because A, nobody's singing, and B, people are gonna be ready for that accent whenever it comes to transition into either a pre-chorus or even a chorus. So don't be afraid to add something new. Just keep in mind that the worship leader might say, no, I don't really want to do that, or the sound guy might be like, okay, that's clashing with something, let's not do that. So that's it. That's all I want to do. You've listened to the song, you've listened to me preach. Now go ahead and practice it, and I hope this was very beneficial to you. If you like this video, please comment down below. I'd really appreciate it. And if you really like the kind of stuff that I'm doing in this channel, please subscribe. It's really going to help me out. And also, one more thing, if you want me to do another song, okay, please do a comment down below. Just please make sure to add the song name as well as the artist name, because sometimes the song name can be the same and it's two different artists and it's two totally different songs. So, but that's it for me. And like I said, my name's Steve and you can call me the Pad Player. Thanks a lot, guys, and I hope to catch you next time.